Well, most people, I suppose, around Ireland have heard of a woman called Biddy Early. Most people only know her name. It will be people from Clare, mainly, or South Galway, Tipperary, parts of Limerick, a little bit of Kerry maybe, a little bit of Kerry would know her more than that. But she was one of those famous healing women, curing women, that people used to say was with the fairies, in the fairies, call it what you like, that she got her power from the fairies. We don't know about that. Is that true or not? But one thing that is true is that she could cure. She was a mysterious woman, but a real woman. She was born in 1798 and she died in April 1874. She was a woman before her time. She was married 4 times. She wasn't afraid of the clergy, she wasn't afraid of the police, she wasn't afraid of anybody. She was a kind of woman who did what she would do, and if you went to her with a sickness, if you went to her sincerely, she probably would cure you. If you went to mock her, you were in big trouble. She would put you in your place very, very quickly. Now, it was mostly poor people that went to her, people who had nothing. Those were the kind of people who resorted to her. There's an interesting story about a man called Gasty Mac, who lived near Kilkishen in County Clare. Kilkishen is near Tulla. And Gasty, he got sick. He was only a poor man. And he was a married man. And he was thrown inside in the bed and he was getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse as the days went by. And his poor wife, she was out of her mind with worry. Now, she was a woman who couldn't afford the doctor. And the neighbours were in and they were advising her to do this and to do that. And I suppose she tried whatever remedies that she could, but he was getting worse. And all the time that Gasty, I suppose Gasty would be short for Augustine, but all the time that poor old Gasty was above in the bed, fading away, obviously, there was this flock of magpies, or what looked like magpies, black and white birds, above on the thatch of the roof, and they're pecking and picking and pecking and picking straws out of the thatch and throwing them down in front of the house and at the back of the house. Now, do you think Mrs. Mac noticed that? Not at all. She was too busy inside with her husband, watching him in the bed. But the neighbours noticed it. They were wondering, God almighty, what brought them there? Anyway, finally, one of the neighbours said to Mrs. Mac, will you go to Biddy Early? She might be able to do something for you. And we'll look after your husband as best we can. And she did. One of the neighbours took her over to Kilbarn near Feakle, where Biddy lived, carried her over in a horse and side car. And as soon as she came in to Biddy's doorway, Biddy knew her. Mrs. Mac, she says, come in. I have news for you. And of course, Mrs. Mac, who didn't know Biddy, was surprised, like a lot more who came to Biddy, because that's the first thing that would shock people. You could come from 40 miles away and she'd know your name, frighten the life out of people, and she'd know what would be wrong with you. Brought her in, sat her down, gave her the tea, and she said, Mrs. Mac, I have bad news for you. Since you came here to see me, your husband is dead. And of course, Mrs. Mac nearly fell off of the chair. But, says Biddy, he's not dead. And of course, Mrs. Mac didn't know in God's name. He's dead and he's not dead. What is she talking about? Mrs. Mac, she said, did you notice all the time that your husband is aside in the bed, that there's a big flock of black and white birds above, pecking and pecking and pecking the straws out of your thatch? I didn't, says Mrs. Mac. I was too busy watching my husband aside in the bed. Well, they're not magpies. They're the fairies, the good people, and 'tis they're taking your husband and have him took this day. Huh? Well, if you want to get back your husband, do you want to get back your husband from the fairies? Of course I do, says Mrs. Mac. Well, if you want to get him back, follow the instructions that I'll give you now. Are you listening? Mrs. Mac, of course, was dumbfounded to hear all of this. Go home, order the things for the wake, the coffin and whatever else you'll need, and get 4 black-handled knives. And when it comes time to put the thing in the bed, and now remember, that thing that's in the bed isn't your husband, it only looks like your husband, and when it comes time to put that thing that's in the bed into the coffin, put those black-handled knives in first into the coffin, the black handles into the corners, and the blades into the centre. Make sure they're like that. And put the thing in the coffin in on top of them. Screw down the lid, and make sure the 4 strongest men in the parish are there. And let them take that coffin above on their shoulders, out your door, to the crossroads that's 100 yards from your doorway. And let no one else touch that coffin while those strong men are carrying it. Remember that? No one else is to touch that coffin, especially you or any relation of the man that's dead. Now, Mrs. Mac, listening to all of this carefully, but when they get that coffin to the middle of the crossroads, open it up, and there inside the coffin you'll find a brush. The brush that you sweep your kitchen with at home. Go home then, and there will be your husband sitting by his own fireside as healthy as ever he was. Do you hear me? Mrs. Mac, delighted, I suppose, with herself, although mystified too. And now, I don't know whether she wanted to pay Biddy or not, but Biddy would never take any money from a poor person. Go on. No, she said, go home, and you'll save your husband if you do what I told you. So Mrs. Mac went home delighted and did all that Biddy told her. Went into Tulla, got the coffin, got whatever else was to be got for the wake, I suppose a little bit of drink for the people that would be there. She told the people that her husband was dead and told the 4 strong men to be there. Got 4 black-handled knives, and when it came time for the poor man that was in the bed, which they all thought was her husband, to be put into the coffin, to be brought to the church, she went up to the room and she put the knives into the coffin, black handles into the corners and the blades into the centre. And the people were looking in the door and they're saying, what in God's name is she doing? But they thought then, she was at Biddy's. Maybe Biddy told her something we know nothing about. But anyway, she told them then, put him in. And they put him in on top of the knives. And then they closed down the coffin. The 4 strong men, just as 'twas dawning day, they took the coffin, 4 corners, and out the door with it. And as soon as it was out the door, they loaded it up on their shoulders and they started towards the crossroads, heading towards the church. But with every step they were taking, the coffin was getting heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. And by the time they were 3/4 of the way to the crossroads, they were whopping under it. Now, they were the strongest men in the parish. And they were nearly at the crossroads when their legs were going from under them and the coffin started to slip off of their shoulders. Now, Mrs. Mac, she was the chief mourner, she was right behind it. And when she saw the coffin slipping off of their shoulders, what do you think she did? Pure instinct. Up went her hands to stop it from falling. And the minute her fingers touched the coffin, it rised up as light as a cork. And those men were able to walk straight to the crossroads with it. And as soon as they came to the crossroads, they put down the coffin. Everybody looking at this now, what in God's name is happening? One of them opened the coffin, the 4 screws at the corner of it, opened it up, and there inside in the coffin was Gashty Mac. Mrs. Mac looked at him, rushed home, and there at the hob, at the fireplace, was the old brush that she used for sweeping the hearth. Immediately she knew her husband was gone. had him taken. And if she had done what Biddy Early told her, it would be the other way around. The brush would be in the coffin, he'd be at home, and she'd have him brought back. But you only got one chance with Biddy Early. If you didn't obey her orders to the letter, you were the one then to blame. Mrs. Mac, I'm sure, she had many, many long nights by that fireside alone, cursing and cursing herself for not having done what Biddy told her. But too little too late. No good cursing after the event.